Good evening. The Ministry of Finance is proposing a raft of new tax measures in anticipation of collecting 400 billion shillings in the 2021-2022 financial year. However, some of these proposals some of these proposals like on internet data and vehicle licensing have elicited public uproar. But with an ever-increasing revenue deficit and the public debt, how best can government raise enough revenue to finance its budget? Tonight we host the Honorable Nandala Mafabi, Chairperson, Public Accounts Committee, James Kakoza, Member of Finance Committee of Parliament, and Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, Siatini, Uganda. Honorable Nandala, Honorable James Kakoza, and Madam Jen Nalunga, I want to thank you so much for having honored our invitation, and I want to assure you the spotlight of the country is on you tonight. A warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
I'd want to begin with you, Honorable James Kakoza, because somehow you have your foot in government, because you're an NRM member and this is an NRM-led government. We have a pandemic-battered economy. When other countries are trying to find a way how they can cushion their people by cutting on taxes, by cutting on interest rates, your government is thinking of increasing taxes, taxing people to the bone marrow in the middle of a pandemic. It's inhuman. I know you don't mean to be bad, but you just don't get it.
Well, tax measures in the budget, the policies, I want to agree with you and think that really we have a weakness, especially in tax policy measures, because as a member of the Finance Committee and also my brother, Honorable Mafabi Nandala, knows that really we've been putting to task our friends in the Ministry of Finance. You see, by the time you bring a tax policy, you must depend on either data or statistics to depend on what you want to achieve. Of course, it's a policy of government to bring bills on tax measures, but you must take into much interest what you want to achieve. If I bring a tax measure, what am I going to achieve? Is it practical, possible to correct what, like you've said, that they are intending to correct 400 billion? As you stated it, the economy how it is, we are operating out of the normal, the COVID situation. So you find that really we have something I would call that really Minister of Finance needs to make keen interest in what proposals to bring. I can give an example. You know, when they brought to correct OTT, they came to the committee, they convinced us. Of course, we had passed a loan of $150 million for optic fiber so that somebody who is using an internet, that money has to be paid back. They said they were going to correct 489 billion. That measure, that tax measure of OTT. But at the close of the financial year, they have ended up correcting 49.8 billion. You can see the gap. That means by the time they came with that proposal, they didn't base on the data, on statistics, how much they can pick from that. So really, I think Minister of Finance need to do more.
But let me ask this, because you're a former minister. Tell me the justification of having a big government, big cabinet, big parliament, all of you driving Land Cruiser V8, in some cases complete with sharpshooters and maybe sending some of us off the road. I mean, must we? And then we, the people, should be able to pay for the luxury of a big government?
Public expenditure?
Yeah, I mean, what is the justification of a humongous cabinet And then each minister is having a convoy of vehicles. A convoy of vehicles, you have sharpshooters on them with the indiscipline on the road. They will push you. Other people are going to work, may have even maybe not meet their obligations because 2 or 3 or 8 ministers are crisscrossing Kampala. What is the justification of putting such a weight of financial weight on the poor Ugandans to facilitate the luxury of a huge cabinet for Uganda?
Of course, you know, the environment as it is, for instance, creation of more districts, administrative units, creation of more MPs, that's all, that is a cost to government. But you find out also...
It's a cost to us, sir.
It's a cost.
To the taxpayer.
But who demands that? Who demands that? When you look at Article 179 of the Constitution, 4.
The people are demanding for a huge cabinet.
You demand for creation of those administration needs, and they come with a cost. Even people go to extent of eating rats, that they are demanding for a district. They are demanding for, you know.
Yeah, but in that situation, there should be leadership.
There
should be leadership. There should be that, and leadership should be in such a way that not what every person is going to demand is granted. You offer leadership. Oh,
my friend, you have to take into account so many things. Because as much as people want that public service delivery, you must also the politics in it. You know, you must know the politics in it.
Okay, let me come to you, Honorable Nandala Mafabi, from the Public Accounts Committee, a member of Parliament. I know you're going to pass some of these proposals and rates, and then money is collected, and it's your Parliament where you sit that is going to make the appropriation, and then it's your Parliament that's supposed to follow, to do the oversight role if there's effective utilization of the funds. Because funds are generated, funds are appropriated by you, but funds are not fully utilized in a manner that is expected to, and yet that is where you lie. Before even we talk about the new rates they're proposing, the policies they're bringing about, how about us having effective utilization with you, sir, and your colleagues doing an effective role in doing what they call the oversight role?
Now, Kamara, I think it's good you started with my brother Kakoza. But before I make my statements, first I want to really sympathize or send my condolences to the Catholic Church on the loss of our Archbishop of the Catholic Church. And also, we in FDC, we have lost Mama Imat from Lira FDC. Not Ogwar, but there's another Mama Imat whom we are burying on Saturday, and the others who have died. And from the death of the Archbishop of Uganda, of the Catholic, it clearly shows that we are all nothing, because the bishop woke up in the morning or at night, they told us the bishop had died. Now, that clearly shows when you come to talk to people who have been entrusted with responsibilities, trying to do wrong things, amass wealth, do what? It is nothing. They will leave it on earth. Now, that's where I wanted to begin from. What's our main problem? Our main problem in this country is planning without knowing. And I'm so worried that this country, the people whom we have entrusted with the responsibility, authority to plan, I think you don't understand. Let me ask Mr. Kamara, can you go to a shop to buy 10 kilos of meat when you have money for 1 kilo? No, you can't. So, you hear every year the budget of Uganda increasing. Oh, her budget has increased. Now it is 46 billion, 48 billion, rather trillion. So thank you for helping me, because these are terrible figures. But tell me, on every year you are increasing the budget, did the other one of the previous year perform as planned.
And this is why I'm asking you,
And
because
that's where I
you
want
have a
to come.
responsibility in the effective utilization of the money in performance.
Yeah, that's where we're going. And that's where, first, the budget must be a budget which is realistic. And the utilization of money, I'll give you an example that if I went to buy a goat, I'll buy it at 150,000. If government went to buy a goat, it will buy it at 1 million shilling. Now, who went to buy? Is it the government? It is some individuals who are in the government who went to buy a goat. So why do you buy a goat of 150 at 1 million shillings? You've seen this NATS program and whatever. So the issue is the side of expenditure. Before we go this side, we have a very big appetite for expenditure, which is a lot of wastage. And we are talking about the oversight committees of parliament. True parliament is supposed to do oversight. But does it have the capacity to do oversight? Does it? If you are in a committee passing a budget, do you always go back and confirm that the one you passed the previous year performed?
But isn't that what you're supposed to do, Honorable Nandala?
Exactly.
Then why don't you do it?
It is you who is not doing it. If you are going to vote an MP who doesn't know what he's going to do, that's a problem. And that one must be the people of Uganda themselves.
So you accept that collective guilt?
That guilt.
That your parliament,
Yes,
where
yes.
you sit,
Yes.
has showed the job for Uganda?
I would start from there. But the who plan is that Parliament has not done its oversight work effectively. It's not me, I must call a spade a spade. Now, because of Parliament not doing oversight work effectively, the executive has used that weakness to do all the wrong things. And that's where we are going wrong. Because the Parliament cannot effectively hold the executive capable.
But you have a tool of appropriation that you can actually hold on the appropriation until some things are done right. Isn't that the power that you have?
We have the biggest power because
Then
money.
why do you give them money when they have not accounted fully for the previous budget?
No, Kamara, I think we are running, and if you give me time, I'll explain to you.
Okay.
Because if you want to learn, for me, I give free knowledge, by the way. So this Parliament appropriates the budget, which has been prepared by the executive, and gives the executive to go and implement. And it is going to implement as planned. Now, they come with activities which are going to be implemented, and those activities which are costed, you give them the money. Immediately down the road, after 2 months or so, you'll see a supplementary, and the Kakoza will be there to pass it. Now, what will happen? A supplementary comes, you are distorting the first budget you are having. Recently, if you are aware, even recently, we amended a supplementary. I have never seen.
Amending a supplementary?
I have never seen a supplementary which has been passed. Again, you come and amend it. That shows how Parliament has gone down. Because first, before you pass a supplementary, you must ask, was it unforeseeable? But you will find that the things that are passing on supplementaries are things which were known. So you have first distorted the budget which you planned. I can tell you, if you went to entities which are implementing these budgets, most of them get less than 60% of the planned budget. Are you getting us? Now, how will you ask an accounting officer whom you are talking about, why didn't you finish this building? Why didn't you finish this? He will tell you, I was not given a full budget. And also the worst thing, which I want also to tell you and the people listening, you will get Minister of Health constructing, Minister of Education constructing, Minister of Water constructing. Yet we have Minister of Works responsible for what? Construction. Are you getting it? You will get Minister of Gender building health center, Minister of Health building health center. So which health center? So there's a lot of duplication. Are you getting us? You will get a school has been built by 4 people. Government of Uganda, donor A, donor B, donor C. So when you are going there, they put a signpost of the one who was coming. Government of Uganda. You go away, Irish government. You go away, you understand? No staff. So no coordination. Office of the Prime Minister, I think all of them, which could have maybe acted as a coordinating, is asleep. So one problem already starts from planning level. So Kamara, the issue is planning. Now planning add-on expenditure, where duplication, where wastage, mention it, is the biggest problem. Now you come and pass a budget of 46 trillion, yet your collection of taxes is going to be 16 trillion. Now 16 trillion, it means from the day you pass a budget, you are going to borrow 30 trillion. Next year the same. The other year the same. Now you put pressure on taxes. Now, what type of taxes are you coming?
Okay, let me
now, just because I want to just draw for your picture, that's when you come with bad taxes and the good taxes.
That looks very bleak now.
And the good taxes are taxes which will build the economy to grow. Bad taxes are the one which destroy an economy. And I will give you examples so that you live when you are knowing. To have a good tax, first of all, it must be efficient. It must be easy to administer. It must be of a person who is capable to pay, not someone that you can force and whatever. This government of ours is because we suffer from memory loss, which I want to speak to. How? We passed road license, was removed. Of course, we had all removed it. We said road license is a very bad tax. We put it on fear. We put it on fear. Now you are introducing road license. Now, yet that tax is already on what? Fear. So are you now withdrawing it from fear so that you bring it on road license? You see lack. And these people of finance think Ugandans are asleep. So that one shows you that we want to get taxes anyhow. Now, you have started very well, talked about interest rates. What? You see, a tax creates employment if it's a good tax. But if it's a bad tax, it will create unemployment. And the moment you create unemployment, one, if I don't have money to consume because I have no salary, then I'll not buy those goods you're selling. Then you will not collect indirect what? Taxes. So the moment there's unemployment, you know very well the economy is going down. The moment the interest rate is high, you know investment goes down. The moment the investment goes down, there's little to tax. And then the moment there's little to tax, you're creating unemployment and the economy is doing. And having said all those, I wanted to explain that now, why are they running like that? They are running looking for soft points, which they don't know that they're killing the economy. And if this government was a serious government, would have said, we have 16 trillion. Let us make a budget of 16 what? Trillion. What is necessary? Administration costs, which you started with. Which are necessary? All the administration costs shall be for public servants of this level. Do we need others? No, cut off. Because I can tell you there are civil servants whose job is to come to look for a deal, but they are not working. Now, you deal with efficiency in the economy by starting with how best do I apply 16 trillion? But the moment you are going to say we need 46 trillion borrowing and whatever, you are going to bring all the wrong loans. Wrong, you know the one wrong. Right now, government of Uganda is borrowing commercial loans. It's like as if now they are going to a commercial bank.
They're competing with you.
Yes. Now, the moment you go for a commercial loan as a government, then know that you are finished.
Okay,
and I can just conclude on that one, that because we want to go to another thing, is that this government, as I'm saying now, even the salaries, they are borrowing. And the moment the government starts borrowing salaries, then no, we are finished.
Borrowing to consume. But Madam Jen Nalunga, you know, our recurrent expenditure, I think about 28 trillion, and we are likely to collect, if Nandala is saying it's true, about 16, if Uganda Revenue Authority, 16 trillion. I mean, we are hemmed in a certain position that it looks like we are descending in a bottomless pit of sorts. How do we get out of this?
You know, okay, good evening, viewers, and thanks so much for having me on this talk show. You know, listening to Honorable Nandala Mafabi, it's a mess out there, and it's really discouraging, you know, telling people to pay taxes to put our money in such a mess. Yeah, but I think government is caught up between a stone and a hard place. and we need to see how to get out. And one way is to address the mess, which Honorable Nandala has talked about, but also which, Patrick, you talked about, the bloated expenditure. You know, the white man says you cut your clothes, your coat, according to your clothes. You know, you can't say you want a long-sleeved coat and a French tail out there when it's 1 meter, and we are cutting our coat according to an imaginary cloth, and we need to bring ourselves to order. And I don't know what we are going to do. You know, like we are saying, Parliament is bloated. You know, when you look at all the structures below, creating new constituencies, you know, it's for me, I even don't know what's happening, and I don't agree with Honorable Kakoza that it's the people who are demanding for that. You know, it's like your child who demands for a sweet every day, and you, as a parent, and you give a sweet, and all that teeth get rotten, and you say, you know, you are the one who was asking for those sweets. You know, we should have order really in a country. If one mad person eats a rat, and you say just because somebody has eaten a rat, we give a district, I think we need to go beyond that. But looking at the tax, government has to tax, you know, because either government get money from us or government will borrow. Government has to tax. And we need to look at how fair that tax is. And also we have to be aware that tax is a tool for development. Like Honorable Nandala Mafabi has said, it's to grow the economy. And it isn't true that when taxes are raised, it's bad. No. Because taxation, we look at, they call them the 4 R's of taxation.
They are canons.
Canons. Revenue, depricing, depresentation, and the distribution. You know, so when you look at a tax measure, it might not be for revenue. Take an example. In the proposals, government is proposing to put in place export taxes, which are very good, although the way they did it wasn't right. They are saying they want to tax the export of maize bran, maize and wheat bran for animal feed and all that. But the tax should have been on taxing the export of raw materials, so that you discourage the export of raw materials, so that you can be able to add value, so that you can be able to create employment. It's a good tax. Government has increased tax. So you are killing two snakes, not birds maybe, with one stone. You are raising revenue, but you're also encouraging value addition. So when we are looking at tax, because we need to generate revenue, but also talk about how we can be able to spend that little money prudently. So there are so many ways we can look at, you know, innovative ways how government can raise revenue. Okay, and we can talk about them.
Those innovative ways.
Before she comes in, nobody is objecting to tax or to tax anything by government.
That's true.
But when you bring a policy like in Britain, 1 year across, they bring this tax measure. They find out what was happening with the target, about the spirit of it. What have I achieved? If we fail to achieve, you go back on drawing board and find out yourself. Why was it correct? But to base on a tax, to wake up and say, but Faminanda is doing well in construction. You say, let me increase a tax on construction because so many people are getting profits. Sure. That's the wrong thing. I've been in Beijing training for that. They depend on the data. They depend on the figures. They depend on the statistics they have in that financial year to bring a tax policy. Because as Honorable Mafabi has said, a tax policy just is simple. You want to collect money to develop an economy. But if you bring a tax policy which hardens, even hard to correct, you won't benefit.
Okay.
You see, I remember the best example I can give. You remember when there was graduated tax? We sat down and they agreed with the government, said, how much do you spend to collect that tax? And why do you have it? The same method we used on road license. Why doesn't this tax becoming so problem? It becomes an indirect tax rather than direct. Because the way how people think that you are going to correct, even you spend more money to put roadblocks, human resource, it will be expensive for you to collect. The best way, make it an indirect tax and you collect the revenue you want. So now, to bring it back, they are collecting like 200,000 because so many people, Ugandans, are driving cars on the road. But remember, when you are importing a car, there is 1.5% infrastructure levy on a CI value of a vehicle you are bringing. So a Minister of Finance could have sat down and say, please, the 200,000 I'm proposing, will people pay? Because the cost of fuel is high. This guy, when he's importing, he gets money, he pays an infrastructure levy of 1.5 of a CIF value on a vehicle. He could have said, yes, if I'll be harming these guys driving the vehicles, what is another innovation? He could come and say, yes, if I make it an indirect, I'll get the 400 billion I want to correct.
Okay,
this is what we are talking about. We are not saying government is not correct.
No,
but the way how they don't take much time to research and get figures.
We all have a responsibility to pay taxes, and, and it's good. But it appears, Jen, that the government of Uganda is grappling with informality. And in that case, many businesses are left outside of the taxable bracket. No wonder our tax to GDP ratio is only a mere 13%. So how do we remove that informality, make the business formal, and maybe try to help them to grow? Exactly. And when they grow, then you can actually tax more people and maybe reduce on the rates.
I think that's the way to go. Let the businesses grow, and you can be able to tax the outcomes of those businesses. For example, what Honorable Nandara was saying, let the businesses grow, let people get jobs, then taxpayers you earn, tax the VAT, you know, that's how it's the way to go. But you know, I also wanted to go back to the issue which Honorable Kakoza has raised, the issue of deepening the tax base instead of broadening it. You know, you tax the car when it's coming in, you tax the license, you tax the fuel. It's one person, you know, who has that car, you know. So government has to see how to broaden it, broaden it, the tax base. This is what you are saying, bringing more people in the tax bracket. But that will also depend on how the economy is organized, because our economy is very disorganized, adding on to the mess what we have, you know. Take an example of agriculture. You know, all of us, when you talk about taxing agriculture, you say, you know, small-scale farmers are poor, but it's because the agriculture sector is not organized. Government has no entry point where it can be able to tax. The agriculture sector, way back, we had cooperatives, we had marketing boards, and government would be able to tax through that. But now they are talking about private sector led, you know, and everything is whoever, you know. Then how are they going to tax that? You know, so again, we need also to talk about the revenue cycle, you know, how you mobilize, you allocate and utilize, you go back to how you are going to mobilize. Today, because we are allocating and utilizing wrongly, like the honorables have said, it's hard to mobilize. And that's the cycle we are in. and it's a vicious cycle which we need to
Honorable
break.
Nandala, the issue of our tax to GDP ratio being so low in the region, if you compare with others, even though others are also not doing well, probably one of them is because some people are out, and maybe one of them is because the business is too informal. What creative ways, what proposition would you make? Because it looks like government is running out of options.
No, the government has a lot of options, but they are not applying them. I will start again. You see, again, when I hear my sister, the ED, and that's what she said, widening the tax base. And for a tax to be efficient, you must do research, the pros and the cons of a tax. And I want to clear state that Madam Media never said the tax should be. Tax is very good. That's why I said there's a good tax and a bad what? Bad tax. Tax for any country to develop, you need tax. And the taxes, of course, are of two nature. One for revenue, one again for prevention. For example,
Protecting the local manufacturer.
No, that one's different. If I don't want people to smoke cigarettes, I increase the tax because I want to cut on the issue of cancer and whatever. So these are things. Now also for export is also to protect first maybe the home industry, and also sometimes when people are exporting and bring back finished product, we endanger. For example, BAT. BAT takes a leaf, you know, tobacco leaf. Tobacco leaf. It was not paying initially. Then we started with, I think, 0.2%, no cents. Now, when they said it should be taken in, what is it? If it is a cataract, and you know cataract, you just go under dry sun, then that one become cataract. It's no different. They have just used our sun here and are taking. Now the industry still leaf the closes in ginger, here it closes and whatever. You take jobs to Kenya. What other countries have done? Such a case, because now all our jobs have gone to Kenya. What would have done is that this cigarette or this leaf and whatever it is should be taxed highly, so that these people come here and produce here. Now
they find it's better
to produce here
than take it as
now what will happen is
raw
that
material.
the Ugandans who are in tobacco will make money, those who are working in the factory will make money, and then the economy would grow even if you export. And when the export of a finished product is low, you don't have to worry, but you have created employment. So that's how you widen tax base. But if you do things which send jobs away, you're in problems. And that's where you are coming to state many things. And these are things I want to state here, so if you give me an opportunity. One, what is the ratio of tax to GDP in Uganda? First of all, what figures are we applying? We may have exaggerated our GDP figures, we may have exaggerated our tax figures, and that's where we have a lot of manipulation of figures in Uganda to suit what we want. But I can tell you that tax to GDP is too low for one reason, because the same people are the ones who are taxing. You will get MTN saying they are giving it a cap that is the biggest taxpayer, that is a crime. The MTN has never been a biggest taxpayer. Who is a taxpayer? If I buy my airtime, I pay 18%, I pay VAT, I pay 12% excise duty, I pay 2% commission, that is 32%. You collect 32% from me, Nandala, Kakoza, for using airtime, you become a biggest tax collector, but not a biggest taxpayer, because you are not paying. To pay tax, you pay yours, which is corporation tax, which are cool. So, now you'll get MTN walking, everybody clapping, the president calling them for round table. In fact, those are wrong people you should not call. You should call the poor people down there who are consumers of sugar and whatever.
You know, you're about now to get into economic business sabotage.
No, not sabotage. You see, MTN, I have always put this, and of course they know me. Just show me how you collected that money, or how you paid it. Show me where you got it. Nobody has ever, they know what I'm saying. So I'm telling you today that even the government which is hearing that MTN has never been a taxpayer, a biggest taxpayer, or Airtel or whatever. They are just tax collectors. Now, where does the problem come? If we start glorifying MTN, then you leave the younger ones whom you should glorify so that they come and pay willingly, you're being in a problem. And that's why I'm coming to say our methods of operations are the one leading us down. Our expenditures are too high. Expenditure by the people think it is in which form. For example, an MP. I like Honorable Kakoza said there are more MPs. If you go to Parliament, you hope you do research, and if you want, I can give research. There are MPs where the total number of voters are 2,000. Are you getting that? Then there are those who have 100,000. In fact, if you divide 2,000 by 100,000, that one needs 50. That 100,000 should bring 50 MPs. So what rationale does this government decide, even if I was the president, to give 2,000 to have an MP, or 5,000 or 10,000, and others to have 100,000? The constitution is very clear how the people can have a member of parliament. But we have left that. And the electoral commission, which would be helping, is quiet. Now, if we would really categorize that, you would discover the number of MPs in parliament would be about 150. Now, the demand on the taxpayer would not be there. I heard my brother Kakoza say people eat rats. The people who eat rats are Tororo. In Tororo. They have never got a district up to date. But those who have not eaten rats are getting them every day in, every day out. I hope you are aware. So all this we are trying to explain is that the executive, the government, the executive is not serious, doesn't have a backbone. So they are looking at their own survival at the expense of the whole taxpayer. If you came to explain to people that this is a problem, they would understand. I'll give you one why I'm saying this. If you went to Budadili West and say, Nanda has not brought a road, an old woman will say, Nanda is not the one who builds roads. It is the government which builds what? Roads. So you cannot tell Nanda to bring a road. I hope you're getting. So the moment you
have some civic competence,
competence
in area, people understand.
People will understand. Now, we have URA. We have tax policy department in this office. What do they do? You cannot run them in the morning and say, you're bringing a tax without research, without data, without, you see, what we do is called cost-benefit analysis. What will be the cost of this tax to the economy? What would be the collection cost? And what is the benefit? The benefit will be known that the revenue will increase. Sometimes you discover the revenue does not go up. Now, Mama, you have talked about the ban. Also, I'm so worried. The coffee brand, is it called brand or ban? No, maize brand and whatever. It comes from maize. So you are going to tax maize brand, and you are leaving the maize to go. Why don't you say no? Maize must be exported when it is what? Finished. Processed. Now, you know the maize brand comes from the residues of maize. Then the brand will be here. Now, what will be the benefits of the brand here? Agriculture, which you have talked about, the animals will eat the brand. Now, our brand goes to Kenya. That's why now we're going to Kenya for Blue Band, for whatever, because Kenya is getting free animal feed from our own maize we're exporting. But if you told the Ugandans that, no, you're not going to export this maize at this form, we must process it. What will happen? There will be more processing machines. What are they called? This one, which maize mill. Kamara, you have a maize mill. I have a maize mill. 10 of us have maize mill, and we need 10 people to work in it. Those are already 100 people. Those one, when they go have 100, they will be paid as you earn. The economy will grow. But we're exporting raw maize. And I saw them when they were closing at the border. People were crying. For me, if you had asked me, I would have said, first, let us check our maize. Is it possible that we can change it now to feed our animals if we have excess? So that animals produce milk, animals produce meat, and we make money. But nobody wanted to look at that. Why? Because we have got a wrong mentality that we must go to Kenya. Now, having said all that, I want to make one simple conclusion. Again, you shouldn't me make conclusions. The Minister of Finance said yesterday that the reason they want to tax cars is to carry data on cars. I looked at this minister, I said, I don't know, must be real mad. First of all, cars come in the Uganda through borders. They don't come through the air. Now there's a data of entry. Two, cars are insured every year. And there's always URA has registration logo books of cars which are in Uganda and the cars which have been here for temporary. You know, when you come in with a car with number plate temporary, you are given what we call a temporary road license. Those ones are entered. If it has not gone out, because when it's going out to go through a border, then from there you would say, how many cars have we insured? The insurance will come up. Now the insurance is now computerized. Insurance, the world has changed. Now I fail to understand what this country is really at. So if you want to bring a tax, do research, do backdate. Now our problem is expenditure. Finally, on this, you know Mulago, we have National Cancer Institute. Cancer Institute used to get medicine from national medical stores. The price of medicine in national medical stores was 10 times they could buy on the open market, and there's a monopoly. When we allowed National Cancer Institute, in fact, they would bring them which are almost expired, then they would ask them to do it. Not only that, even other hospitals, by the way. These hospitals lacking drugs is a result of national medical stores giving them drugs at expensive price or about to expire. Now, the country should have come up to say, you know, when I say NRM, the people are complaining about medicine, but the total problem of medicine is the pricing. Now, who is eating man of medicine? If I was a president, I would take action. I would say, how much is a Panadol? Why is it costed like this? The reason I'm raising this, under the law, which I want to ask because here, we formed national medical stores to be just a one to look for as a profit trade, another to go and look for economies of scale, buy import drugs in high quantities, and when they come here, we buy them at lower prices, and even the private hospitals should be able to buy. But there's no private hospital which can go to national medical store to buy drugs because they are more expensive than buying them in the what? In the private pharmacies. So why haven't you done such and such? Such an expenditure causes us would have said, hey, why are we concerned?
Okay,
so having done all those, I wanted to say taxes are good for a country, but they should be taxes. It has six principles, and one of them is it growing the economy.
All right, gentlemen
Maybe
and ladies.
something small. I don't want people listeners saying that some of us, the tax policies are not, we are not against the revenue measure, but we are against the way how it's done and professional. Because you see, the problem always, I've been in the committee with my brother on Mafabina for 17 years. We've been advising government that why don't you as a Minister of Finance have a short-term policy, a medium-term policy, and a long-term policy, whereby a year ends. You know, I have executive director, I have Kakoza, I have Mafabina and Kamara. Once a year ends, ask them, when you brought policy, did you perform well? This is what is doing, China is doing. Did you perform well, depending on what the tax policy is?
Honorable Kakoza, Madam Jen Along, and Honorable Nandala Mafobi. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's look into Uganda's public debt, which also seems to be, you know, rising every year. We are now at 63 trillion, yet 4 years ago it was standing at around 28 trillion. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight are Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, Siatini, Uganda, Honorable James Kakoza, and Honorable Nandala Mafabi. I want to begin with you, Jen Nalunga, in this segment about Uganda's public debt, which has risen to 63 trillion shillings, according to Bank of Uganda Monetary Policy Report of October 2020. This is an astronomic increment from 28.7 trillion just 4 years ago. I mean, how do we reach here? Then how do we get out of this trap? If we have a debt of 63 trillion and we have a budget of 48 or 40 something trillion,
Which budget has is full of a debt?
Which budget is full of it? I mean, are we?
Actually, to put it properly, between 2014 up to 2017, the external funding of the budget, government, it was around 75, I think, by then, between that. But today, as we talk, it has come to 48. External funding is bigger than where we were. So the finance people could have sat down and said, where are we going wrong?
Okay.
This is what our argument is.
So
where are we going wrong? Because by 2015, 2016, all the budget you had, we were at 75%.
Financing our own by 75%.
In 1986, it was 52% external funding, 48% domestic revenue. But now you've made factories, you've made policies, you've provided an environment. Finance could have sat and said, where are we going wrong? That's the drawing board we are talking about.
I know borrowing is not bad. All governments borrow.
But where do you invest that money?
But
borrowing is
are we
not
not headed for disaster? At this kind of borrowing?
Borrowing is not bad. It's not a crime. And in fact, one time we had a discussion about the debt issue, the debt trap, and somebody was saying from the central bank that that is not a problem. That Japan and other countries, they even have a bigger debt than we have. But the problem is our ability to pay, and it comes because of what Honorable Kakoza is saying. Where are we investing that money so that we can be able to generate? Debt is almost like what happens at the household level. If you are borrowing to consume, to pay salaries, and you are not investing that money, And for me, I also see a vicious cycle of more borrowing and more borrowing. In fact, today, the whole debate is around debt restructuring, debt relief, debt cancellation. But now the challenge is that the kind of loans we are getting, they are not like the multilateral loans we have been getting. We are getting the commercial banks, even government going to Standard Chartered Bank to get a loan. That's how far we have gone. And maybe honorable members know even the security we are putting there, I don't know. But what's worrying, I was looking at Kenya. Kenya is supposed to borrow, is it how many billions of money? And IMF is telling them the conditionalities to carry out some reforms.
In fact, the Kenyan government, the Kenyan citizens,
are the ones who are saying,
calling themselves Kenyans on Twitter, are saying, do not give our government money. And it's a big movement because it's being wasted.
Exactly. Because when you look at the conditionalities on some of these loans, we are going back to the structured adjustment programs where we are going to privatize even the little, the little institutions we had, So it's when we talk about the debt crisis, we are looking at also that reducing policy space because we are getting more conditionalities. But we are also reducing on resources which we would have put into, reinvested into maybe infrastructure, the productive sector. Because today when you look at our budget, debt repayment and servicing is up. Then you come down.
It's the second, in most cases, the second biggest part.
And it's going to be almost the first.
It's not even debt payment. It's something servicing.
So when you come down, the curve comes like this. Down here, that's where you get agriculture. Maybe somewhere here, that's where you get education and health. Down here, that's where you get trade, agriculture. So how do you expect us to grow the economy? To grow the economy, to be able to generate even resources to repay the loan. So there is that vicious cycle. How do we get out of it? This is what we have been talking about here. The appetite to grab, like it's a bonanza. The other time, Parliament, I heard you were discussing a loan to do the environment, trees, and you are cutting down Bugoma forest. You are cutting, and you are getting a loan to do that. You know, so there is a high appetite to borrow, which is wrong. But also, again, we go back to the prudent use of resources. We go back to cutting our coat according to the cross we have. And I agree entirely with Honorable Nandala. If we have 16 trillion, we sit down and say, how do we use this money? If half of the parliament had to go back and we merge the constituencies, we merge the districts, let us do that.
Reforms. You know,
You know,
No, maybe from where, if I can pick up from again, the ED. You see, Japan could have a high debt, but what is the investment they have?
Yeah.
It's like I go to the bank, I have $1 billion in debt, but I have assets worth $2 billion. That means if the bank demanded its money, I would pick the billion and what?
and pay.
Pay. But the government of Uganda, if they are demanding it 63 trillion, what investment do they put? How do you make a road today and it is already bad? Have you seen the bridge in the Ginger? The one, the suspended bridge?
yes.
The day they opened it, it's cracked. If you go there, they repair that bridge every week. You pass there. It has not even finished 10 years, not 5 years. If you borrowed money for 40 years, it means you have consumed the money for 40 years within 1 week, 2 weeks. What happened? It means the investment you did was put to waste by theft, by what? So how do we get out of this? Is how do we deal with theft, corruption? Now our biggest problem now is that the government of Uganda now is borrowing from commercial banks. In fact, it's borrowing even from Circle. I don't know if you understand. Because if I put my money in the Standard Chartered Bank, our Circle in Standard Chartered Bank, and we go and borrow, we're borrowing our money. In short, they have not come directly, but soon they are going directly to the circles. Now, what am I bringing up this? You see, we must be very careful. What is our investment in the debt? Right now, debt service only is number one.
True.
That means if debt service is number one, it means the tax collection, all the money you collect, 12 trillion goes for debt what?
Servicing.
The remaining 4 trillion is the one where you pay some salary, not enough. That's why we're telling you that if you do the analysis very well, we're living in debt day in, day out. And I'm not so sure if we're telling the right date. Let me give it numbers. If last year we had a budget of 45 trillion, I'm just giving an example.
Yes.
And you had only 16, it meant you borrowed 30 what? Trillion. Now if you have not paid the 30 trillion, now this year you are borrowing another 32 trillion. The other year you will borrow. I am not so sure that number is right, because we're good at keeping numbers, what we call off the balance sheet figures. Now, if we're doing that, that's where the problem is. So what I'm trying to mean is that, what are our main problem to deal with? Our investments we're doing are too poor that they cannot last, and we're borrowing for consumption. What it means, consumption means you borrow and eat the same day, so there's no return. Tomorrow you need to pay debt when you have eaten. It's like you go to the bank, you borrow 10 million, you eat it in meat, you eat meat, instead of investing it to generate more money, and so that you can be able to buy meat, and when you pay the capital back. But for us, we're eating the capital, and we need to pay it. Now that's where the problem is. 2, our procurement in Uganda, 80% of our budget is procurement. I don't know if Honorable Kakoza you're aware. 80% is what? Procurement. And the procurement is very interesting. There are cartels in procurement. For example, if it's a road, there will be 5 bidders. But there will be that a certain, almost the same what? With a difference. So when this one gets this one, the other one, they say you'll get the other one. Do you know what is happening? In the process, they have hiked the price of a good or a service, yet in the normal case it should be maybe a quarter of the price. And we have a very bad mentality in this country that a Ugandan cannot do anything good. So you must go to these what? Foreigners. Now when you bring a foreigner to do a road and whatever, all the money goes back to a foreign country. And yet it isn't. But if you give Nandara or a local person, you see, capacity building does not mean, you cannot ask me experience if you have not given
But there's
me
a local content policy.
No, it is there, but is it being... The law has even was returned. It has been just returned. By Uganda, you see, there are so many factories here who deal in steel. Do you think they manufacture steel here? They bring finished products. They just want to maybe corrugate it. It becomes iron sheet, and somebody says that one is a local company. Nothing. Just go to roofing here. Go to Uganda bat here. Go to steel here. These are importing finished. Those traders you see are bringing finished product. So to bring a roller to go and corrugate an iron sheet, to change a bar like this, twist it, then they say that that is a bar made in Uganda. So what we would do is to make sure we build capacity in Uganda, and it's possible. Make people fail. Kamara, I give you a job, you fail. I continue helping and train you, do what? China, what it did, it carried its people and took Silicon Valley in California. They told them, go and even if they tell you sweep, sweep. But what they were doing, they were getting what? Knowledge. And when they got knowledge, they have passed in what? If we also want this country to develop so that it competes, let us do like this. I went to Tunama the year to get land to do something. I wanted 5 acres. They were giving an Indian who was nothing 10 acres. They are giving me 1 acre. I'm a local one. Then I went and said, please add me. They're telling me the procedure. Kumbe, these people are just busy selling land to what? To Indians, speculators. I told them, I am a local investor. I want to invest here. Put a fuel depot here. We will make money. But they couldn't allow. But what I'm trying to say, we underrate Ugandans and go for foreigners. In the excess, you are exporting your own money out instead of maintaining the money within the country. If we are continuing like that, China, which we are pledging assets, are going. You are aware the airport is one of, I'm told, if I'm not mistaken, is one of those we have put as security.
What?
Yes.
You see, even don't know.
You have not been reading agreements. You have not been reading agreements of China.
No, they are not public. How would we know?
No. You need to find
Access to
public information. There's access to public. Even there's a report which says that China, when you get a loan, you must attach
something.
Yes. Security. Two, it's very interesting. I want to give one time this Chinese, they were giving money. So they asked the government to put a guarantor some money first. I think they collected about 150 billion. They put it in a Standard Chartered Bank. Are you getting it? Then they give you money. Now, in short, how do you get 150 billion? You put in the bank. And like, that one. Then you go and borrow from the same bank. You borrow from the same money. I think in Uganda we lack. I don't know what is happening. It's a huge problem. And I think the area, the country, the people who are in power came to realize that they have gone wrong and they call people for knowledge and advice.
So this issue of borrowing, Honorable Kakoza, in just 1 year, I'm told we have borrowed over 10.8 trillion, mainly to combat the effects of COVID-19. But surprisingly, according to the Auditor General's report of 2019-2020, over 3.5 trillion of the 4 trillion borrowed for COVID intervention, it remains unutilized.
Of course.
So what informs our borrowing?
Of course, the problem is the big challenge we have, and we have to accept it. You know, when you own a mistake, you know how to correct it and how to go about it. Our colleagues who are doing implementation work of government, they are not very honest. Because by the time you go to propose a loan, you know where to invest it. Isn't it so? Because
you have done a feasibility study and you know where you go.
Where you go. What makes some of us wonder, and some people might work sabotage within. How do you borrow a loan? It's passed in Parliament, it's unutilized for 4 years, and you are paying an interest on it.
And you are paying project managers.
And you are paying project managers. You see, that's where some of us will get a problem. Because by the time you go to borrow money, I just go borrow money in the bank. I'm ready with an investment, with a calculated plan, and start even the grace period that I'm going to start. But you come to Parliament as a budget support. These people give you support, go and invest in the money, but that loan lies on account for 4 years, 5 years. What does it do? For me, that's where I have a problem, that maybe some people are sabotaging within government and they don't want to be honest to us. But simple thing, simple work.
Okay.
But maybe
So
also
the government should get those people who really investigate these cases, should get interested. They should take keen interest, especially those ministers at a policy level. If you see some things going wrong, it's your responsibility to correct it. You get it and say, this is what we want to do. Mr. Kamala, what we call figures don't lie, and there is no politics in it. If you want to lie and you include politics in those figures, you are going to mess up yourself. So it's just, we have to come out openly and we go on the drawing board. Where have we gone wrong? What are we supposed to do? If anybody is not doing a duty, is not doing what he's supposed to do, you get it. Honorable Faminandara has said something which, because I'm on budget committee on supplementary, I asked a minister, a vote is controlled by a chief accounting officer. Any initiation of anything, it must come from who? The only accounting officer. How do you sit as a minister? You initiate
A supplementary.
a supplementary without a knowledge of an accounting officer. Honestly. How do you do it? And Public Finance Management Act is very clear. We passed it to strengthen the efficiency of systems in government. A minister sits, knows it, that there are financial regulations, there is Public Finance Management Act, but he argues with the accounting officer who doesn't know they're asking for a supplement, who doesn't know where to do with the money. I think it's high time now that we collect all these money and come out.
To Jane, then
I just wanted to say something about the 10.8 billion which was borrowed, which you have talked about, and that within that amount of money, government borrowed money to UDB for the stimulus package, to lend to MSMEs and all that. But most MSMEs haven't seen that money. And even when you look at the stringent conditions, they can't access it. Then you wonder, why was it borrowed? But then also I think we need to consider the fact that it's not right for government to be borrowing money to lend to MSMEs. We need to reorganize the banking sector, because the banks today, I don't think Uganda has, as Ugandans will have a bank, or government has a bank. Take an example of Kenya. Kenya government has a bank, and it has branches all over, and it mobilizes resources, mops up those resources, keeps them in the bank, and people can come and borrow that money.
If you want to look at what we have,
you know,
the banking sector is not in our hands as Ugandans. Insurance is not in our hands.
Telecommunication
is not in our hands.
And
big hotels are not in our hands.
And
so
those are the
what do we own?
And those are the services which mop resources and then externalize them. And we are talking about financial flows. And then government has to borrow to be able to ensure that our MSMEs have credit and finance.
Gentlemen and lady, hold on to your points, because we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's look into the proposal to cut out the OTT, but also substitute it with a 12% excess duty on internet data. What do you make of that? And also I'll be opening the line so that you too, at home or wherever you are, you can be a part of this discussion. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Madam Jen Nalunga, Executive Director Siatini, Uganda, Honorable James Kakoza, and Honorable Nandala Mafabi. And we were talking about the proposals of increasing tax, or the tax policies and measures that government has tabled before Parliament, and perhaps they're going to pass them. Government wants to remove the 200 shillings daily excess duty rate on OTT and substitute it with a 12% excess duty on internet data, except data for provision of medical services and education. But again, we are living an information age, you know, a knowledge economy. Isn't it better actually to remove all these so that Ugandans can, you know, use the internet, use the technology to innovate, to, you know, create applications, and then something good can come out of them instead of just blocking them? Yes, James.
Of course, this is where also the problem arises, as I said before. Any tax measure, it must be with a collection of data of that policy. How many people are you targeting? What are the pros and cons of that?
In fact, as like you said, OTT was a trial and error. You know, they
This
targeted
is
for
it.
400 they got 10%.
billion. They could have sat down because they have got all the information. They have got all the Minister of Finance has got all the information. If you want it, okay, OTT, how many people? You go to MTN and these communication companies. You get the people who are just using that data and know what is the number and what will be the impact. If I put that, will I get more people in the bracket, or I lose more people in the bracket? You get what I'm saying? Because if you are losing people in the bracket, then you are not going to collect the revenue. You get what I'm saying? You are not going to collect revenue. But what I want to bring more people in the bracket. I have to create an environment, a tax which I feel that many people will pay it, and I will get a lot of money and a lot of revenue from that. That should be the spirit of a tax measure. You bring many people in the tax bracket, but you don't reduce the number you want. You have. So the research could have been there. This is what they are using in China. I was there for 6 months. They get everybody. They know that we have Mafabi Nandala, we have Kamala, we have Kakoza. These are the business they are doing. Even they categorize the business. Manufacturers, we have this number. Wholesalers, we have this number. Retailers, we have this number. By the time they lose 100 people, they will go and ask them, what happened? Finance has all this information. So why do you try something which you fail and people hear and you lose? So we are telling our colleagues, our friends in finance, please get more interested. Get research. Collect data. By the time you come to tell members of parliament that this is the revenue I'm expecting, it will be exact. And that's where you will get a revenue and spend that money. Budget is just only two things: income and expenditure. Income and what? You cannot look for expenditure where you have no income. If the income is weak, your budget, you are not going to break even. This is what I can say.
Maybe I want to state like this. Before I leave, we talk about OTT. You'll discover, you asked about loans. Under absorption. If you come...
There's what we call lack of absorption capacity.
No,
it's always like a common phrase.
No, under absorption.
Yes.
A man or a woman goes and does a feasibility study, goes and gets money, he comes to parliament, we approve, he gets money, then he doesn't absorb. And we pay charges. We pay into commitment. We don't use the money, even some of them expire. Such people should have been even arrested, because you have not even, you're a non-performer to begin with, but you must have done something with another intention. And this is criminal, because it's dangerous. But what I've noticed, because when you go to government of Uganda budget, the money which comes from the consolidated fund is more or less than the money which people get in projects. For example, you will get a ministry has 6 billion as government of Uganda from consolidated, but in projects it has 20 what? 20 billion. So you will say, that means they say, we are underfunded. Yet they have projects which they work with. Most of these buildings you are seeing around, whatever, are under projects. These are houses, many people, they steal from what? Projects. So the earlier the government come up and did the rationalization of these projects, which are getting money in the form of donor funds or loans, then we will have, and that's why we're getting duplication. But having said that, even also parastatals and subdivisions, but having said that, I, Nandara, I transact now. I make at home, I do a payment online. I have paid somebody instead of going to the bank to line up and make a bank draft to take money. And what do I use is internet. Now, internet, when it came in, it meant that it will make business easy. And the young boys and the young girls who are now thinking outside the box, developing apps, doing what, doing many things using the internet, are the best who should be helped to move further to do that. Most countries, you're on the street, internet is there, even in Kenya, even Tanzania. But here in Uganda, we invested over $450 million on the backbone. Fiber backbone here. Purpose to reach everywhere in the country, but also to make internet cheaper so that people can do what? Business. Now, if you don't do that, you're creating a lot of problems. And these are the problems. You know, now we have WhatsApp groups. You can know a mind of a youth or a person through WhatsApp. But the moment that person is off WhatsApp, it's more dangerous. And I want to warn this government that the moment data will become expensive for the younger generation, they will create other methods of operation. And you can even get this government falling without knowing, because they will do things under the cover. Now, data should be one of the things which the government should have come up and said, data is cut across because we have invested more money in data. Now, why do you want to charge internet, which is easing business, which is making these young boys and young ladies to create employment? Because if somebody develops this app, for example, I have developed an app to deliver food, so that you put in and you will earn his money from there. He will pay if you want to tax him on the income he has made, but not on something which is aiding him to do it. And you see, internet means you cut on office expenditures. If I have internet, I will operate in my house. I don't need to look for money to go and rent an office. So, and if I've cut on rental issues so that I can generate money, be employed, but you want me to look for an office so that they look for me, it is very dangerous for the country. And I want to ask the country, the Minister of Finance, think about other avenues of taxing, but internet should be made cheaper for business purposes. Can I say something about the alternative briefly? That if when we are targeting the digital platforms, maybe government should aim higher. There are e-commerce businesses, on these digital platforms, the Alibabas, the Amazons. Most of us here, you get a book on Amazon, they are not taxed. So let government look at that, taxing e-commerce. I have some figures here, very interesting figures. UNCTAD came out with a study that Jumia raised in 2000, they raised US dollars 280 million in East Africa. 48 million of that was in Uganda. And the trade under e-commerce is going to increase from 30% in 2020 to 62% this year. Very interesting figures. All
$48 million raised in Uganda.
Yes, all that is not taxed. But it will require a lot of capacity building to tax
e-commerce, but those are some of the alternatives. And other countries like India are doing it, you know, these Ubers.
Yeah, Uber, that's a
Okay.
very good
I'm
one.
going to
All
open
those
the
are
lines
digital platforms.
so that you too can be a part of this discussion. You're going to see the numbers on the screen. Please call us and tell us your name and where you're calling from, and make it very brief. We seem to have lost connection to that line. You could try again, and your name and where you are, and keep it very brief. In case you have any disagreement with the panelists, please disagree with respect. I have a call on line. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. This is Joseph.
Yes, Joseph.
Now, let me make an appeal to society. I think Madame Nalunga is listening to. I am going to say this. Now, Chinese loans are opaque. They have opaque lending practices, and they are collateralized. I am urging civil society, because I know the members of parliament there work to it, to institute a suit under the Information Act and force government to release some of these documents that are collateralizing some of our national assets. I have a feeling that even that water, our rights over fresh water body might be leased to Chinese in case we fail to pay, because right now, China owns 20% of the national debt. And that is just a rough estimate, because we don't even know. Countries like Nigeria, Kenya, they have fought legal battles to force their governments to release that. In Uganda, civil society is asleep. That is the one. Last. Madam Nalunga is talking about taxing of e-commerce. I'm a startup lawyer. I am dealing with tech startups. You are not going to tax things that are not breaking even. You know, tech businesses are capital intensive. That is why even in the recent tax proposals, they gave venture capital funds reliefs on capital gains on sale of shares. That's a story for another day. So civil society, I think something should be more proactive than reactive, like this thing of China, because it's a time bomb.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm going to pick one or two more callers. And if you can also be as precise as Joseph was, that would be good. And if you have a question, please, you can direct it to either one of the panelists we have. Be specific. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Kamal.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling Dennis from Nate.
Okay, Dennis, you're on air.
The problem for Uganda is we have a lot of MPs. We have a lot of councillors. We pay them a lot of money. So that's the problem of Uganda. We need like 15 MPs only. We need like a region. Per region, we get one MP. Per region, we get one councillor or a councillor. So that people, we are here struggling with money. We are getting a lot of our money. People, we are waiting for you in the
Thank you, Dennis. Yes, many people have argued that the cost of public administration is high. The parliament is bloated and cabinet is bloated. We need to cut those. After all, during the 70s, I think instead of RDCs, government, they had governors. You have a governor for Northern, you have a governor for West. And maybe, Dennis, you have an idea. We have a caller online. Hello.
Yes, Kamal.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am Alfred calling from Navy.
From where?
Navy.
From Navy.
Yeah.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
I want to illustrate to my friends that you sit in the committee, and then also you look at very many things to a senior accountant. Now, I want to be with you and agree with you that the situation where we are going in is total state of backward. And only people who are benefiting and enjoying are the for whose eyes are blocked. We are fighting over political caucus, but we are not seeing that the greatest problem we are fighting here is we who are the Lapawana Yinchi, who are going to suffer a payback. For us, in our law society, they say the death of the cow is a blessing to a dog because there will be a lot of bones that will be left. So now, it's going to be a cow that will die, and with the dog to the eat, we shall not know whether the dog, the meat is poisonous or not. So this death people are getting, and I believe perhaps at this age, should be knowing that this land belongs to all of us. We should advise the government well, last Kamara, let the president of this country look for the right leaders who can advise the government. Because why do you get members of parliament or ministers who are not able to guide on the right direction of what kind of loan to go ahead, how we should go like.
Thank you so much, our caller from Nebi. I'm going to take the very last, and then my panelists will be making their concluding arguments on the show tonight. And the number is on your screen. Tell us what you think and your name and where you are. Have a call online. Hello. Oh, it's a pity we lost that call online. You can try again and have a call online. Hello. Okay. I'm closing the lines. So I'm beginning with you, Jen. We are concluding remark. And just in case you asked to respond to some of the views you had.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our callers are very good ideas coming up. I agree entirely with Joseph regarding the issue of debt management and transparency. In fact, all the honorables here, we are saying we are not even sure whether that's the right debt we have, you know. So there is a lot of opaqueness, and I think we need to know what we are getting into, what we have got into, you know, what kind of loans we have, what's the security when it comes to those loans. I think we need some more transparency around that. And I also want to assure Joseph that e-commerce is making a lot of money. We are looking at multinational companies, not this OTT and data, no. These are multinational, Amazon, Alibaba, making very good money. And we need to, we need to tap into that. But lastly, we need the issue of broadening the tax base. We have talked about that. There are so many areas where we are letting money go and we are running after the small people. You know, we have signed, for example, we have signed double taxation agreements with a number of countries, including Mauritius, including Netherlands. When you look at the companies which have invested here, the oil companies, MTN, most of them are domiciled in Mauritius, in Netherlands. Why? Because those are tax havens. But they are saying, no, we have a double taxation agreement. So it becomes, it isn't double taxation, it becomes no taxation. You know, in fact, the government is renegotiating the double taxation treaty with Netherlands. So we need to look at, alternatives, but we need to reorganize the economy because government taxes profits from a vibrant economy.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Kakoza. You're cutting short.
Of course, I want to add my voice to thank those who have taken time to listen to us, and also really to request that my brothers in the ministry who are given responsibilities, this is the time to think about what they are doing, whether they are going wrong or they are going bad. And all that to know that it will depend on the statistics they have. Because there is no way you will know that you are doing well or bad without statistics, without data. And honestly speaking, they have the information. They have everything. It's better now they sit on a drawing board and they say this is the best direction, and they advise executive and say this is the route to track. We can come out of this. We can come out of this, and really they should think about that figures don't lie. And there is no politics in this.
All right.
There is no politics in this. The moment in investments you put politics there, you are going wrong.
Honorable Nandala, you're parting short.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank all the callers and also the listeners, as my brother Kakwaza said. And this country belongs to all of us. Nobody applied to God to be born here. We have only this country, Uganda, which is ours, but we need also to enjoy it as Ugandans, not other people to enjoy on our behalf. So I want to call on those who are in management of the affairs of this country, that you listen to such callers that say reduce the number of members of parliament, reduce the number of councillors. It's very vital. That's a valid point. Even districts, even the sub-counties, mention it. See, if the administrative units are high, that also applies to the ministers. That also applies even to public service. It's a blow to the public service. And that's why we're getting problems. the expenditures of the public administration is so high. But I want to make two corrections, not really corrections. I want to state that the government is missing one. Taxing Uber, for example, Uber. What it means is that Uber, when you pay Uber, you know you pay a card. The money goes to California. That's where the headquarters are. So what it means is they know how much came from Uganda, how much came from Kenya, how much. So now what to use is that if we say we need 10% of what you collected from Uganda, I can tell this is because of what you call international taxation, border trade, international tax. It will be done. It's a matter of just enforcing it, putting it in the law, and you'll get your money. That applies to Amazon. Amazon, I buy a book, they will know the one who bought it is Uganda. But the complication which comes in, which I will state at the end, is that if you discover that there's a discrimination in taxes, I would go to the border in Malaba, cross across, use my card, and buy a book or buy whatever. But of course, for a taxi, there's no way you'll cross. You'll use it here in Kampala, in Mbala, and whatever. But all those are this. But I have now noticed something. When this gentleman said from, what was the name, Joseph, that we may have lost even our waters. It is recently it came to my mind now. When he has mentioned this, and I want all Ugandans to know it. Recently, the Minister of Agriculture came to talk about export of, is it moa? The one which they get from fish.
Yes.
Somebody can get that thing, the fisherman, and throw the fish, so long as he has the what? The moa. That moa goes, that it can go up to 3.5 million shilling. One. Are you getting it? Now, who are the chief buyers of moa? Chinese. I can tell you, Chinese can say we need Lake Victoria purposely, not for getting more. And from what I've heard today, from what I've learned,
and they get exclusive rights on the water.
Exactly, and it has opened my mind. It is, come on, I want to thank that caller. Has opened my mind. And also, if you're a minister, please think for your country. Don't be so crude because you are on your personal interest. Tomorrow you will need it. I'll give you an example. You know, I give examples. There was somebody from Nigeria, there I will not mention the name, fell sick. She could not reach even a cardiac in Intenda. She died on the way. But she had more than enough money. So what I'm trying to say that you can have money and you die. But what we're trying to say that don't think about your country. Think about your country. And when you want to do taxation, like our colleagues in finance, do a proper taxation. We're not saying, sometimes when people say opposition, for us, like Nanda, I give you free knowledge, free advice, it's up to you. And that's why some members were saying, why haven't we done as the members of parliament? Yes, we will speak. There are those who will come because they're expecting to be ministers. They say, oh, you shouldn't go against a government position because I might miss a minister. You don't know that you're killing your people one inch. And that's why my brother Alfred says the Ugandans, those poor Ugandans are the ones suffering. But they're suffering because of a few of us who are bringing policies to kill them instead of building them.
Thank you.
Thank you.